Thank you, everybody, for coming to Wisconsin Basketball Media Day. Hope you got what you needed from the student athletes. A reminder that the women's team, the student athletes, and Coach Bobby Kelsey will be available in the media room immediately following Coach Ryan's press conference. Before we begin with Coach Ryan, too, I'd like to remind you of a few dates coming up. The basketball team will be holding the second annual Shooting Down Cancer event. Last year it was titled something different, the Charity Stripe Challenge, but it is a cancer research fundraiser. They'll be having it at the Kohl Center. It's October 17th from 3 to 7 p.m. Also, the Red-White Scrimmage will be on October 26th for the men's basketball team at 5 o'clock here at the Kohl Center. Now we'll take comments from Coach Ryan. He begins his 30th year as a head coach in college basketball and his 13th year atop the Wisconsin program. We will open it up. We've got microphones on either side of the room. Tessa and Christian are here, so just raise your hand and we'll begin.
And 42nd year overall, correct?
Correct.
How many people in here are 41 and under? Probably most. I've been coaching a couple years, which helps. Experience. We try to sell experience around here. Yeah, the charity stripe had to be changed because there actually was another group. There was another thing called the Charity Stripe Challenge, I guess. So we don't care what it's called. We just know that, from what I'm told, they're putting a second basket in the arena. Is that true?
The half-court end.
At the half-court end. So there'll be more half-court shots. So we're making the necessary adjustments at home, Kelly and I, to get ready for the barrage. People are practicing at the surf, at the Nat, we hear, so it should get kind of interesting. But that's okay. All for a good cause.
We'll take our first question in front.
Hey, Coach, can you talk a little bit about meeting up with UW-Platteville in the exhibition contest?
Well, it's our second go-around. You know, what I never want this to do is ever lose any of its purpose in playing the state schools. There's a lot of affiliation between the people in this state involved in athletics and a lot of people who work in offices who are all from you know, different state schools, and they have their stories, they have their pride in their institutions. And so when we finally got it passed, and we worked through the WIAC to get it passed. They sponsored the legislation to play non-Division I schools along with any foreign teams if you wanted to play them or scrimmages or anything else. So we started with the state schools being one of the two games that we would play. And then now I've gone to a scrimmage for the second game. So now it's Platteville again. We've already went through the 9 schools. It's hard to believe this is the 10th year of doing this, but we're proud to be able to say that we have state schools that are pretty good. They know a little bit about the game, and they know how to play, and they have systems, and they have a lot of followers in the state. So I think it's just a natural, and we're excited again. My affections for a place like Platteville, as you guys know, runs pretty deep.
Over here.
Coach, you coached at that level for a long time. What are your thoughts on the coaches and the players that come in and play you, and what can they take away from that experience?
Well, as I said, the first year we did this, we would have crawled from Platteville to play the University of Wisconsin. And, you know, it's because they have 15 guys that practice every day, work hard, you know, play off of one another. They also have a great deal of respect for the game, each one of the coaches and the institutions in the state conference. So for them to be able to do this, just ask their players. I mean, I can't tell you over the last 9 years how many times after we played one of those schools, the letters, the calls, the emails, never Facebook or tweets because I don't have it, but I do get messages in other ways how much it meant to them. And when I bump into people in the state, I hear it all the time.
Jeff.
Bo, over on this side. What did you learn about your personnel up in Canada, and can you quantify yet how valuable that experience was, given all the new faces on this roster?
Well, the experience in Canada was great. I thought the two cities were great places to pick up some of the Canadian culture and how Canada is divided up and how their government works, especially being in Ottawa and Toronto. The other thing was we had a little fun with when we saw the changing of the guard. How many here have ever seen that at the Capitol? Well, all as I did was I told Bronson Koenig and Jordan Taylor-Hill to go get Ben Bruss and Josh Gosser. That's a changing of the guard. I guess you had to be there. Yeah, most of the players didn't chuckle at that one either when I called them together. It was fun. What did I learn about them? It's a good group, some great young men. Great. I mean, you had to enjoy being around these guys to watch the way they played off of one another, tried to learn together. They realized they had a lot to learn about defense. Offensively, we could score. Defensively, they realized it takes more repetition than what we had previously leading into those games, and that the Canadians can score. I would say the Canadian defense was about where our defense was. So we both scored. And I think what my whole idea of doing the trip was I was hoping that when we came back and then we started our drills in practice, there was a frame of reference. Why do we handle screens this way? Why do we handle staggards? Why do we handle ball screens here, ball screens there, block-to-block situations? Well, this is why. You just found out why we do it this way, because we got burned on some things where we needed work. So that's what the Canadian trip meant to me.
Jesse?
Well, at this point, how close is Josh to being playing at the level that you hope he can get to later in the season?
Somebody told me it was in the paper that he was 100%, so what do I know? They don't let coaches determine anything anymore, other than who starts and who plays. But I mean, when I say determine, if a guy's nicked up, we're secondary, and that's all right. And the player, because players will play hurt. As my old coach asked me the other day, I was talking to him on the drive home, and he said, "Tell those guys you never missed a practice or a game in 7 years. Would you just tell those guys to toughen up?" I said, "Coach, this was an ACL. I said, "Coach, we couldn't even spell ACL when we were in high school. We had sprained ankles and dislocated fingers and things like that. But, you know, nowadays, a guy doesn't practice if he's not cleared by the training staff. So when you ask me, where is Josh, I'm going to let him do anything he can when he's on if he's going to be on the court, he has to be able to do everything that's asked of every other player. If he's not able to, then he's not on the court. So he's been on the court, and he's done some pretty good things. Sure, there's a little, every once in a while you'll see him reach down and grab his knee. Not grab his knee like it's in pain, but just kind of readjust his brace or just keep reminding himself that I'm okay, I'm all right, I can do this. He hasn't done any 360 tomahawks yet, though. He's not there yet.
On the left.
Coach, you've got 6 new freshmen. Can you talk about what it's like from a coaching perspective to work with so many young guys, and also how they acclimated so far to life as Division I athletes?
Well, I can tell you this. This is probably one of the brightest group of freshmen collectively that we've had. Very astute, very perceptive. hungry, and they're grasping a lot of things, and I think it's out of necessity. I mean, sometimes freshmen come in and see all these guys in front of them where they feel they have no chance of getting minutes. We have several guys who know that if they continue to progress and do what we've asked of them, that they can get on the floor. So I think if you see that out there, if you see that light, may as well go full speed ahead. So I really like the group. I think it's, and I think our upperclassmen will tell you the same thing. They've added to practice. They're going to push each other within their own class, and they're going to push all the guys in the sophomore to senior class. Not that we have a lot of seniors, but.
Again.
Talking to Sam, he said he's gained 30 pounds since he's come onto campus. What have you seen out of him early on in terms of the evolution of his game, and what do you hope to see as the year goes on in terms of maybe his versatility or just his improvement?
He's gained 30 pounds.
He said he's 223. He said he came in at like 191.
Was that soaking wet?
I think so.
See, when you see guys every day, you never really, I would never have guessed that. That's, heck, I haven't even seen the weights on our players. I couldn't tell you what anybody weighs. So what have I seen different? He knows he has to get better with his feet. He has to get better defensively. He has to be able to finish better. He has to be more consistent with his shot. He has to, you know, list of about 20 more things, but I'll stop there. Just like every other player, he's learned a lot. He's in the process of really tinkering with being pretty special, and it's going to be on him how far he wants to take it. Looks like he could use another 30, doesn't it?
Who's next?
How about like Nigel? What's he weigh? Did he say? Did you ask?
250.
Did you put these? Yeah. Well, every NBA scout, Jack, not you, but every NBA scout would always call Mike Wilkinson is not 6'8", in his stocking feet he's 6'6". And they'd blame me like I'm the one that puts these heights and weights in the program. I don't do that. So what do you have Vito listed at?
Weight?
Yeah.
I'd show you, but you don't have your glasses
Don't
on.
let us hold you up, but we're
220.
220. And Vito's Nigel's 250?
237. There you go. 237.
That's his job, he's supposed to.
I got old weights. Pre-summer. In the back.
Coach, you have a pretty young team, but obviously some guys with some actual experience. Do you think that is going to surprise some people this year?
Well, I don't know. Halloween's coming up, and I've seen surprises. Some different costumes and different. I don't know what you mean by surprises. What?
Being, you know.
Does that mean people think we're not going to be very good?
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe. With a young team, you know, losing so many big guys.
Yeah, you know, I think surprises, as long as they're good surprises, not bad surprises. I like good surprises. There's a lot of question marks. So with the young guy, every time we do a drill now, we put a freshman with an upperclassman, and they help them through the drill, especially partner drills. And they've worked pretty well together. Pretty spirited group. So will youth be served, or will the youth get served? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But it's fun working with guys who are listening and trying to grasp what we're teaching. It's a great group for that.
Go ahead.
Is this the most depth that you've had in your backcourt, dating back to the however many years, 42 years you've been coaching?
You think 12 guards is a lot? Well, if you ask certain guys, they'll tell you they're guards. You know, it just panned out this way. You know, it keeps a very high competitive level in the backcourt and all our drills and all our possessions. So I've never really heard of teams having too many, to where if you have guys who are in it together and not worrying about just themselves, so there's not, you know, guys jealous of other guys or envious in a way that it's detrimental. But the guys who will be on the floor, the other guys that will be trying to get on the floor, they'll know why. You know, I haven't had a problem with that in all those years that he mentioned. You know, guys that aren't playing usually know why they're not playing and, you know, okay, get better at these things, and usually they understand. Is that what you mean? Like, what are we going to do with, like, why have...
Just have a lot of guys back there with Josh being hurt last year. A lot of guys got in, George.
Great minutes. Great minutes for Trey and for George. Shoei for Zach.
Tom?
I mean, obviously, you look at the guys you lost. You lost a lot of front court minutes.
Close to 100 minutes, yeah.
How is this team going to look different? Are you going to play a lot smaller? I think I know you well enough to know that doesn't really bother you much, does it? If you have to play small, big, however you have to play.
Yeah. There's certain things you would like to say, like I'd love to have a 6'8" power forward. I'd like to have a 6'11" strong, good center with good feet. You'd like to have a slasher at the 3, like a Tucker. And then at a guard, you'd like to have this and have that. You take what you have and try to put them in positions to be successful. And I think, you know, Sam's already played a few positions, and he's a wing, and that could be a 2 or a 3, but he can also play the 4 because there's a stretch 4, as they call it now, thanks to the NBA, I guess. What was the NBA, Jack, that coined that term? Stretch 4?
Yeah, when
pick and pop guy?
managers don't have real power forwards, they call
Yeah, okay, because it sounds good. Well, Sam is a stretch 4 when he does play the 4. And I like the versatility of some of our guys. You know, Josh. Josh could play a 1, 2, 3. Trey could play a couple positions, you know, and so on. You can go through some of our guys, and you could say that. The main thing is defensively, you got to know what your teammate's going to do on a screen. You got to know what your teammate's going to do on a staggered screen, in transition defense. Who has the rim? Who has the ball? Who moves when on what pass? So all those things in our drills, when we run our search and destroy drill, which is a transition defensive drill, you end up on guys that are bigger than you or smaller than you. So sizes have never really bothered me. And maybe it goes back to my first high school job where everybody was all the same size. 6'1", 12 guys that were 6'1" out of the 15. But they were slow, and they couldn't shoot. And somehow we won some games. You had to see these guys. No, actually, they could shoot a little bit, especially our one-eyed guy, Mark Dublisky. I have coached more visually impaired players than anybody else in the country. My first junior high team had a player with only one eye, and he was my leading scorer. At UWM, do you remember? Some of the older guys, Chad Angeli, glass eye, he had one eye, he visually impaired. He was all conference. He was all Horizon League. Marcus Landry was legally blind in his one eye, at least for a while. I don't know if that came from a hit to the head. Where's the trainers when I need them? Do you remember Marcus had the problem where he had to wear the goggles because they didn't want his eye? He really only had one good eye. And how did I get on that, by the way? Anyhow, we'll take guys who can play and can play any position, and size. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the fight in the dog. And the guys hear me say that a lot. So hopefully we'll have some of that.
We have time for a couple more optometrist questions if anyone has any.
Well, Frank got semi-blinded last year.
How about, and that's, well, when that happened, yeah. You know, I always, whenever I work out, I throw a game DVD in. And just so happened the other day, I said, all right, let me go back to the Michigan State game here. I know there was a drought on points per possession. A drought? It was the Gobi. It's the Gobi Desert. We scored like 4 points in the last 7 minutes. Of course, they weren't scoring a whole lot either. But what I'm getting at is then they show the bench, and here's Frank with his glasses on. And, yeah, that was one of the games that he had to sit out. So anyhow, yeah, Frank was what, 3 games? Something like that?
With what he did on the court last year, what do you see from him this year, especially with
Frank?
Yeah,
yeah,
with a drought
he's
in
better.
the backcourt,
He's
front court.
better. He was till he got nicked up here. He was playing really well. He's come a long way. We're excited about what he can do this year. He'll have a chance to do it. And you know what Jim Carrey said about that.
Can you talk about Jordan's having 5 years of experience, still a freshman? Does that add to his maturity on the court, older than his 18 years?
Yeah, well, you know, he's still the funniest, one of the more interesting phone calls, recruiting phone calls, is he has to excuse himself for a little while and then comes back and says, Coach, I can't believe I'm practically hyperventilating here. I can't believe you called me. He says, do you know what my middle name is? Some of you have heard this. And I said, oh, you know, when I was an assistant here at Wisconsin, I had this big notebook of every call that I made. I had every sister's name, every brother's name, and I never made a phone call, but you have cell phones now. I never made a phone call off a landline where I didn't have the notes on the player that I called. I'm on my cell phone. I don't have his middle name in front of me. I said, Jordan, you got me there. He said, I'm Jordan Taylor Hill, Coach. I watch Jordan Taylor. He's my idol. I said, Jordan, you don't have to work on minutes yet. Just, you know, be patient. You'll be able to get some. He's smart. He's wiry. He's quick. Love him at practice. I love what he's doing on the floor because he brings it. And, boy, I thought I hated to lose. My kids can all tell you the stories of how I never let them win. My own children. I hate to lose. And Jordan Taylor Hill might hate to lose more than I do. And that's scary. At that age. I've mellowed as I've aged. I'm not anywhere near as competitive. But will that matter? He still looks young. Now he's growing a little, either that or he's coloring it in. I don't know.
What does he weigh, Jack?
170.
There you go.
Strong 170.
All right, Jim?
Well, have you formed an opinion yet on this extended preseason? I'm just curious, your players too, they've been through practice, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks now, and they're still 4 weeks out from the first real game. Are you sensing any antsiness or anything to get the real season started?
No, not really. With the workouts that we were allowed to get in anyhow, with the couple hours, of course, we're a school that adheres to the rules. So we would stick strictly to the hours. but other schools were working guys out, you know, in different ways, using the hours differently, or the guys were still playing, the guys were still conditioning. See, I can't take the guys to the hill. It counts as one of the 30 days. So what's happened is it's taken away conditioning days, so the conditioning is actually done with a basketball right now. That's the difference. That's the difference I've seen. And we have it spaced here where there's days off. This is actually the first week where we've gone 6 days in a row, but then there'll be some, because once October 15th came around, you always went 6 days in a row until your first game. But we have some days off in there. The challenge, the student, what's the new term
Shooting
again?
down cancer.
Shooting down
October
cancer
17th.
is a volunteer thing for the players. They can be, it's a like community service. So that doesn't count as a practice day. But we'll find out how we feel going into the season. To have as young a team as we have, I'm trying to look at it as if they were telling me something like, "Hey, coach, you're going to need all those practices. The sooner the better with that squad."
Anything further? Thank you, Coach Ryan.
All right, what time is it?
It's 4 o'clock. On the button.